Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of June 16th. Do I have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. All 5 selectmen and town council Richard Bowen are present this evening.
Just for information, town administrator will not be here tonight. Announcements?
Announcements,
Mr.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Heidelbaum.
Yeah, just the one I've been making for the last several weeks. Tomorrow, June 17th, special election on the override question. Vote at Precinct 1, which is Town Hall, from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. Precinct 2, which is the Hammond School and Onset. Precinct 3, Minot Forest School. Precincts 4 and 5, the Deacon School. Precinct 6, Minot Forest School. So that's all I had by way of announcements.
Ms. Whiteside.
Thank you. Pleased to announce that the ship's wheel from the Lopes Playground was recovered, even though it was in several pieces. Mr. Long is working on putting it back together again. And my next targeted playground is Oakdale.
Awesome. Okay, well, actually, Mr. Holmes, please. Nothing? I'll say. All right, so I just want to remind everybody as well about the election tomorrow and how important it is to the community that everybody goes out and voices their opinion. Obviously, I think it's important to the town that it passes. I hear a lot of information out there, and there's a few things I'd like to make remarks about. There are some people promoting that the election was only supposed to cost $3,000. We were going to have it all at one polling place, and we didn't do that. So why should we believe that we're running the election and not going to do what we say we're going to do with the money? Well, first off, I don't know who would have said that. For one, there is a procedure for elections. It's established by state law. We followed it to the letter. In fact, I read into the record here all of the polling places, right? All of the polling places where they are. And an election here does cost between $14,000 and $16,000. That's the cost for police overtime and the poll workers and printing ballots and all that. That's what it costs. It is part of what it takes in order to get the opinion from you folks of whether we're going to do this or not. So let's not throw the whole thing down the toilet just because it costs money to have an election. It's just the process. It's what we have to do. It's how we do it. It's how the state defines it. Every step along the way is what we have done according to state law, and that's what we continue to do. We promise you we'll follow state law. We promise you that the plan that you can see on the website is the plan we're going to use. There's a lot of good stuff here. This has been, a lot of people have been working really hard to make you feel that we're doing the right thing for you. I mean, we have to pay. Every one of us up here have to pay for it. We understand that it's going to hurt a little more for people to pay. We understand that. But it depends what you want for a community. And we're really on the downside of headed towards bankruptcy if we don't do something now. Bourne did it. Others have done it. They did it because they needed to do it. Bourne's pretty solvent as a result. I hear people say, well, we haven't taken care of our town employees in years. They haven't got a raise and they haven't done this. Well, there hasn't been any money to give anybody anything. And there may still not be any money to give anybody anything by the time it's all said and done. We're going to have to live more frugally in general, and that's what we're doing right now. And that's what this plan is all about, is living within our means, living more frugally, but giving you the services that you need and want. Please go out there. Please think about this. I put my number up online so everybody could call. My number is 508-566-4621. If you want answers to any question, I don't have all the answers, but I'll get them for you. I can tell you that. You call me tonight, tomorrow, whenever it is, you call and ask. And if I don't have the answer, I'll call somebody and I'll get you the right answer. Don't listen to the coffee shop people that don't know what they're talking about, that just say stuff because they want to be mean. Pay attention. This is your town government. We're all up here working hard to try to give you something you can be proud of. Please, pay attention, listen, and do the right thing. Make the right decisions. Whether it's you pass it or you don't, we're going to live with it. But please think and use your heads and ask the questions and be informed when you go in that booth. Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tropiano. A couple things. First, last week we asked people if someone would step up to take care of the volunteer wall downstairs at Town Hall where all the veterans and stuff, their names are on the plaques. I'd like to announce that Liz McDonald and Joe Leggett have agreed to take care of that. We're trying to get a hold of Jim Newman, who was here last week, to find out where the plaques came from as far as the names, because we can't find a list of where they belong. But we are working on it. For those of you out there looking to have that done, it will be done. The other issue, Mr. Tropiano spoke about our election tomorrow. I'd like to take a little different tack completely away from that. All of us, call ourselves adults, everybody here in town, we all basically are role models, either directly or indirectly, to everybody else around us. I made a comment last week about the unfortunate situation where we have a lot of young people going into schools, going to churches, other places, shopping malls, and just shooting people. It's not a video game. There's no reset button to reset after you do something. What we do ourselves really sets a tone for what happens as far as morality, et cetera, in the town here and everywhere else in the world. I was very disappointed in what's been happening with this election as far as signs being defaced, taken down, everything else. It just puts a bad image for what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the town better to live. We're trying to work together. You hear the word, don't kick the can down the road. One of the oldest things around is, let's be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I'm asking everybody, rather than sit there and say no or yes, come up, step up, and try and help us. Because at the end of the day, the town doesn't have enough resources, doesn't have enough funding, and the only way we're going to get through this is everybody to work together. If we're sitting there fighting with each other, playing what I call kids' games, nothing's going to get done properly. Thank you.
All
Citizen
right,
participation
next is citizens' participation. Anybody for citizens' participation this evening? No, seeing none. Appointments. I have a whole lot of appointments. If you can bear with me a minute. All right. Okay, here we go. Robert J. DeLuca, is he here present?
I have a note here that we got a call late this afternoon. He was scheduled to be on the agenda but cannot make it.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we appoint as a constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015. Robert J. DeLuca, 4 Peter Cooper Drive, Wareham.
Second.
Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Okay. Next is Richard White. Come on down, Mr. White. If you want to say something before we do anything here.
As long as you're not here to arrest any of us.
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Dick White, and the reason I'm here tonight was looking to see if I could be considered to be appointed a constable in the town of Wareham. I'm presently a constable in the town of Bourne, and I've been there for 4 years now. I'm retired from the Massachusetts State Police after having served for 35 years.
Wow.
And I've been to 3 different constable schools, and I'm presently looking to expand and get into some more areas.
Okay.
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Title Bob?
No, Mr. White comes well recommended by any number of reputable people.
Mrs. Whiteside?
No, thank you.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Tropiano?
No, I'll make a motion. that
Thank
we
you for
appoint
applying, sir.
as constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015. Richard F. White, Sagamore Beach.
Second.
Any questions? None heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Just
Thank you very much, sir.
Aye.
question for you. I know on your application, it has a post office box, but doesn't he have to have a street address as well, sir, Mr. Town Council?
The P-
Yeah, it's in there.
Is there?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
It's in
The-
That probably ought to be on the,
We can make a correction on the form.
yeah,
I just used a P.O. box for my business.
right, but
We'll get it changed.
we'll
on
get
the
it,
form,
we'll
yeah.
put that on, we'll add it on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for
All
taking the
right.
time.
Next, Karen A. Blair.
Karen Blair also is not available tonight. She's out of town.
Okay, I move we appoint constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015. Karen A. Blair of Middleborough, Mass. And let me see, her actual street address
Is here.
is 15 Pine Street,
No,
Middleborough, Mass.
no,
No.
Robin Hood.
Sorry, that's not correct.
11
11
Robin
Robin
Hood
Hood Ave.
Ave.
Robin Hood Ave.
Second.
Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Okay, that moves the constables. There you go, guys. If you could sign those, that would be wonderful. Open space. Trenton Blanchard. Come on
Come
down,
up, sir.
Trenton. So we're looking for a position on the Open Space Committee.
Good evening, Selectmen. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, my wife and I moved to town about a year and a half ago. We're looking to get involved
Thank you.
and try to do the right thing around here. So throwing my hat in the ring for open space as well as Marine Resource Commission. I don't know if that's on there as well, but
It probably is, but
Yeah.
we'll get to it.
so any questions for me?
You have any experience in the areas you can tell us about?
Not particularly in board positions or things like that. I'm a graduate of Northeastern Mechanical Engineering. I work for Johnson & Johnson. Part of their credo is to be involved in your communities and reach out. That's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to do the right thing, get involved, and hopefully set the example for our future kids. It's where we chose to live and raise our family, so I want to be a part of it.
Thank you. You're part of our solution.
Thanks.
Any questions from the board?
I just want the record to reflect that this gentleman has a master's 50-ton coastal license, so he's got some experience with
Marine.
larger craft.
Yes. We do run a part-time charter business locally as well in the town, so.
Mrs. Whiteside? Any questions?
No, but, well, which one are we talking about right now?
Open
Trenton
space.
Open space?
Blanchard, open space.
And you want to be on both?
Yes.
Okay. I heard you, how did you find Wareham?
Actually stumbled into it. One of my coworkers, when I worked for an energy conservation company up in Norwell, his brother lived here, put his house on the market, and sent it to me and my wife. My wife came down, looked at it with me, and fell in love with the house, the location. We're a mile from the beach. I'm an ocean guy. Grew up boating, fishing, so this was a perfect community for me. So
Are you used to being yelled at, called names? Have sticks and stones won't break your bones?
I am thick-skinned. That was no problem. No problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that pity party, Selectman Whiteside.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Holmes?
Nobody's getting into it.
No.
Mr. Tropiano?
I'm all set.
Thank you again for applying.
Excellent.
All right, I move that we appoint Trenton Blanchard of 8 Mathers Drive, Wareham, Massachusetts, to a spot on the Open Space Committee to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Any
Would you guys like me to
questions?
hang out for the Marine Resource?
If you're there. Any
Yeah,
questions?
you know
All
what I
those in
Why don't we
favor?
just-
Aye.
Aye. Why don't we just
Opposed?
move that one
Abstained?
forward?
Just as a reference for anybody new who's applying, you have to take a state ethics test, which is downstairs through the clerk's office.
Yep.
And you also pick up your license upstairs in the selectman's office, the actual certificate.
Absolutely.
You also take an ethics test
I just
before
did
you?
that.
Okay, and that you get a booklet on how to behave? Nice.
All right, here we go.
How good are
okay.
you with a hammer and saw?
Very.
Paintbrush?
All right,
Very
so the next is
I would've said
Marine
no.
Resources, and I have 2. The first one is Trenton Blanchard. Hi, Trenton.
How you doing?
Nice to see you again.
Nice to
Welcome
see you
back.
again. Glad you could make it.
Yep.
All right, so I move we approve Trenton Blanchard of 8 Mathers Drive, Wareham, Mass. to a position on the Marine Resources Commission to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman.
Warren Hall.
Warren is not here in the audience.
What are
Warren's,
you doing?
Warren's membership, I think, is up. He wants to continue.
All right, I move we approve Warren Hall Jr. and appoint him to a position on the Marine Resources Commission to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
All right, next, affordable housing. No, these are certified weighers, actually.
Mhm.
All right, certified weighers. Is Ricardo Morales, Toby Gonzalez, Vern Rudolph?
These are just normal reappointments. They usually don't
Yeah,
count.
I know, I'm just gonna see if any of them are here.
Okay.
David Germain, Brett Walecka,
Wallaca.
Brian Walecka, Daniel Walecka, Leonard Bassett,
Bassett.
The teacher, always making the
No.
corrections.
It's, you know,
Michelle Monroe, none of them are here. All right, so,
Let's
here we
to
go.
one.
You ready?
mhm.
Let me just check and see if they're, hang on a second, I know how to do this, lickety-split.
Right here.
I just wanna check the dates, that's all.
They're all the same.
All right, okay. All right, here we go. I move, we approve or appoint the following individuals: Toby Gonzalez, Vern Rudolph, Leonard P. Bassett, Ricardo Morales, David St. Germain, Brett Walecka,
Wallaca.
Brian Walecka, Daniel Walecka, and Michelle Monroe as certified weighers to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Hold on. Oh, good, I gotta sign it. All right, next. All right, let's see what we got here. Just one. Stephen, okay. Stephen Suey.
Stephen is not here.
Stephen is not here.
He's continuing his membership.
All right, so I move we appoint Stephen Suey of East Wareham to an Affordable Housing Trust Fund to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Any questions?
I just wanted to
Mr.
state for the
Titlebaum?
record that the Affordable Housing Trust voted 400 to support his reappointment.
Thank you. Any other questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you.
And I have two more constables to appoint. First is Greg Kamen, I know he's not here, I don't see him, and Robert Terrell of Plymouth. All right, so I move we appoint Greg S. Kamen of Rochester and Robert Terrell of Plymouth, Massachusetts, to positions of constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
There you go. Let me just make sure we got them all, and then we'll go from there. All right, I think that's it for appointments. Hold on, Joe, let me just double check before we, I don't think we're gonna sign documents with that, well, you do that later, right? All right, so that takes care of appointments. I gotta sign these, but I will do that afterwards. Licenses and permits. First up is Cape Cod 5-cent savings.
Mr. Austin? Thank you. It's good to see you, sir. How are you? Looking forward to the opening.
Thanks.
Go ahead and introduce yourself and
My
explain
name
what
is
we do.
James Austin. I'm an employee of Cape Cod 5-cent Savings Bank, and I'm here just representing the bank tonight for the permit for the one-day liquor license.
Questions from the board?
I like your building. It looks just like a Vermont country store.
It came out very nice.
Yeah,
We're very,
it
very
did.
happy with it.
Mr. Titlebaum, no questions?
No questions?
Mrs. Whiteside? Mr. Holmes? Mr. Tropiano?
No questions.
All set. I'll take a motion then.
Okay, I move we approve a one-day all-alcoholic license to Cape Cod 5-cent Savings Bank, care of Amy Levine of Orleans, Massachusetts, for Monday, June 23rd, 2014, from 5:30 PM to 8 PM
At
at, where is it?
10 Rosebrook Place. 10 Rosebrook Place.
Yeah.
Right here.
Cape Cod 5, 10 Rose.
Doesn't say it on the thing, though. Has to say it on here. It's not on here. Yeah, it's not on the license, so we're gonna have to fix that. Okay, I'll make a note that we get that fixed.
Was that a motion? Second.
Yes, including the address that you just said.
Yeah.
Any questions?
10 Rosebrook Place.
None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
As
Aye.
modified?
Aye.
Abstain, opposed, nothing. 500.
Okay, thank you.
All set. Thank you.
Sorry. It wasn't on the thing. Advance that folder. Okay, we gotta hold that one because we're
Well,
gonna do that after.
do you want us to sign this or not?
Yeah, you can sign it. You're gonna have
Just
to
write it in for that matter. Initial it as the clerk.
I would just write it in, and
Yeah.
again, initial it, we're fine.
I think I
We've done
can-
that before.
Yeah, sure, why not? 10 Rosebrook Place. And I'll just initial it. Okay, good. All right, good, thank you. Nice job.
Do you want to take the other one out of order?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so we're gonna have to bring it up under 24-hour business. Do you
Yep.
wanna go to there first?
Might as well get it out of the way. Take
Okay.
care of it.
All right, so
They're here.
let's,
I don't want to have them wait 2 hours.
all right, so we're gonna go from there, folks, we're gonna go to, any other business, 24, within the last 24 hours, last 48 hours prior to posting of the meeting. We're going there, so Mr. Titlebaum, anything?
We just have this application for a one-day that's come in.
Yeah, I'm gonna deal with that, but I mean,
Yeah.
anything else you
No,
have?
nothing else, no.
Ms. Whiteside?
No, I'm still looking for volunteers who know how to paint and all that other good stuff. And just so that you know, I mean it.
That's not you.
I'm still not allowed to paint?
It's a ban for life.
See, when you don't do a good job, you luck out.
Mr. Holmes, nothing? Mr. Chair? Nothing, and I have nothing. Okay. All right, so, could Miss Romanovich?
Roma.
How do you say it?
Romanovich.
Romanovich?
Romanovitz.
Romanovitz? Is that how you say it?
Romanovich.
See, we both did it wrong.
Wow.
All right, that's okay, come on down.
Romanov.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
We are having a high school graduation party for my son at the AD Makepeace Box Mill Hall on Sunday, the 22nd at 2 p.m. We were told by the person that we're renting the hall from that if we're going to have alcohol there, that we need a licensed bartender who has a tips card and insurance, and also was my understanding that we need a one-day liquor permit. We're going to be having the bartender serve just beer and wine to our adult guests. We're not charging for the,
You're not charging for the alcohol?
so I don't know if there was a
You're not charging,
misunderstanding.
You don't need that, huh?
That's right.
You don't need a liquor license if you're not charging for the alcohol, right?
Okay.
Is that right, Mr. Counsel?
Oh, I agree completely.
Okay,
So you don't need a license?
okay, so they told us that it was required if we had alcohol, but so I can let them know that you
As
all
long
said
as you're
that
not
as long as I'm not
charging for it,
charging for it?
It's only when you wanna sell it
Okay,
that you need the license.
Okay.
If you're just gonna give it to people, to your family,
okay.
To your
have
guests?
with it, go, have fun.
Even though it's not at our house and it's at
21 and up,
somebody
of
else's
course. You
property, it's
Still can't
okay?
give it to underage drinkers.
Absolutely. Okay,
Okay?
thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
You're all set, otherwise, anytime we had invited somebody over for a beer, we'd have to come here and get a license first.
2 o'clock on Sunday.
He's gotta sign everything he hasn't signed yet. All right, so
Might be a way
this
to get
can
revenue
be,
for the town.
this is,
Thank you, sorry.
okay.
Just as a quick note, I noticed that the insurance binder is not up to the current levels that we approved, so I'll ask the office to make sure that they take care of that issue going forward.
All right, so next on the agenda is the amendment to the Blues Festival of 2014.
Mr. Lockwood? I'm sorry, I don't know the person who's with you, if you want to introduce them.
Yep, good evening, Bill Lockwood, Chairman of the Onset Blues Festival, and with me is Teresa O'Neill, our parking czar. We're here for 2 pieces of business this evening. The first of which is to use Dudley Brown Square as an opening venue from 10 in the morning to 12 noon. We will have a lightly amplified act, solo act there during those hours. before the main festival kicks off over in the park at noon. The second matter is to request the use of Hammond Field, Heinz Field and Lopes Field for parking for the festival. It's our intention to charge $5 a car, and we've discussed splitting that with the town, revenues with the town.
Questions from the board? Mr. Titlebaum?
We're voting on these one at a time?
Well, no,
We're-
it's all in one permit. I mean,
Well, what is the amendment?
if you,
Well, we have a permit to use the park for the festival proper, and these are just
Right.
ancillary
The
activities.
first one is for the square, so I was, like, my question is procedurally, is this voting to approve both uses, or are we doing one at a time?
well, it's all in one permit, so we can do it as an entirety, and then we can
All right,
amend
okay.
it however you like.
All right,
Yes.
that's fine.
Okay? That's probably the best way to handle it.
Yep, so you have the benefit of what was prepared, so.
Yeah. These all signed?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so, anybody else, questions?
Mr. Whiteside?
Yes, for the record again, please, Mr. Lockwood, could you explain not the program that you're putting on, but what you just said about the parking?
Okay, we'd be using, proposing to use the Hammond School area, beside the tennis court there, for vendor parking, which we would not be charging for, other than the vendor
Are
fees.
you talking about inside the parking lot between the tennis courts and the building? Or
Yes, yes. Or the,
So it's parking on the field?
parking on the field, yes. That would be item one. Our,
Mm-hmm.
item two would be Heinz Field, and item three would be Lopes Field. And it'd be our intent to fill Heinz Field and then Lopes Field sequentially.
And the last comment that you made about the money that you collected for parking?
It's our intent to charge if the board is willing, and it was discussed that we would split the fee with the town.
You all set?
Yeah, who would be directing the traffic? You would,
I would have a,
With a group of volunteers.
okay, not kids. Well, like 14.
no.
Yeah.
They would be mostly relatives and volunteers from the OBA.
Okay, great, thank you,
Adults.
thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, to follow up on the question about the parking, when you say the Hammond School, I didn't quite hear your answer. Are you talking about parking on the grass at the school?
Yes.
Well, this board has no jurisdiction over that. That comes from the school department. They still
I see.
maintain that,
Okay.
number one. And number two, thank you for volunteering half the money, as you know. It's been difficult here on Tuesdays to get money for parking, so I'm very happy with that. So thank you very much for
You're
your
welcome.
efforts and the contribution. And when the other part, Bill, was up in the area, I think, before the school. Did you talk about that lot? Because I think that's metered now. We're not talking about any places where there's a kiosk,
No.
right?
Correct.
Right, okay. Good. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Bill, we're talking about the area when you asked on Hammond, that's where there's an actual gate which opens up for certain festivals over the
That
years.
was our intent, yeah.
You're also including the angle parking in front of the tennis courts, right?
The angle parking in front of the tennis courts is kiosk controlled, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So this would be the
That
area,
is- No, it's not.
No, it's-
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is?
yeah, at least in theory.
Oh, okay, great.
And that was our understanding, and we're not asking to do that.
And I have one more question.
Go ahead, Mrs. Whiteside.
Trash. What are you going to do with it?
Trash, what are we gonna do with it?
Mhm.
We thought we'd deliver it to Town Hall, but
Would you like-
absent of that, we have employed ABC to give us a dumpster and a number of rolling trash barrels.
Touche.
Can you say that again, please?
We
Not-
we have retained, employed, hired ABC Disposal to provide us with a dumpster and a number of barrels to service that dumpster.
And would that, would the barrels be emptied into the dumpster? Are the barrels Loctite? Are they, rat-proof? Are they tip-over-proof? Do they have tops? Would they pass inspection in
I
Alaska?
believe that they do have tops. There's, I think, 60 gallons. They would be dumped by the end of the day into the dumpster, which probably does not have a top, but would be removed within 24 hours following the festival.
Thank you very much.
Shouldn't be an issue, given that rats are typically nocturnal.
Well, unless the
It's an
trash is
issue
there
if the
overnight.
trash is over there overnight, which has been the case.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Tropiano?
No,
any
I'm all set.
questions?
I'm good.
I'm all set here.
Okay.
Bill, you're going to go ahead and get a hold of the school department for the other piece?
We'll get a hold of them, and is there a formal procedure with them, or
You'll
that you're aware
you'll
of?
have to go to the superintendent's office and see how they handle it.
We'll check.
All right, I
her.
move that we grant permission to Onset Bay Association, care of Eleanor Martin, P.O. Box 799, Onset, Mass., for the use of Prospect Park, Lillian Gregman Bandshell, Dudley Brown Square, Lopes and Heinz Fields for the following events. The 2014 Onset Blues Festival, August the 2nd, 2014, between 9 a.m. and 9:30 p.m.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Excellent.
you.
If I
Also,
make a
thank you,
make
Bill. Thank
make a
you.
quick plug, it is again on August 2nd, and we're going to have 6 bands, opening with Lloyd Thayer in the square at 10 a.m., and opening at the park with Johnny Barnes and the Night Crawlers at 12, followed by Fat City Band, Johnny Hoy and the Bluefish, Rosemary's Baby Blues, and the headliner hitting the stage at 7 p.m., Little Ed and the Blues Imperials. It's going to be a great show. Tickets are $20, and they're available at the Onset Bay Association online and at my office. Hope to see everybody there.
Sounds like a really nice event and a nice lineup.
It's be our 22nd.
I also want to thank you for stepping up for the CPC through the Housing Authority. Took us a little while to get it done, but it is done.
I believe it'll be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll have to be.
All right, next up under town business is the discussion of residential real estate exemption.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yeah, this was something, it's kind of interesting, and especially when we've got an election about property taxes tomorrow, essentially. This is rather interesting, just to summarize for the people who obviously haven't seen the article. The Cape Cod Times on June 4th reported a story about a new selectman in Mashpee who is seeking to shift the residential tax burden a little bit off of the year-round residents onto seasonal residents and other taxpayers. And what it is Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5C, allows a municipality that votes to do so to extend an up to 20% real property tax exemption to residential homeowners, meaning people who live and vote in the town, as the primary residence, on their primary residence. So if you own 2 houses, it's not going to work. You're just going to get it on one. Procedurally, I would turn it over to Attorney Bowen at this point, just to explain, in terms of hypothetically, if the town were to vote to adopt such a thing, how it would work.
Mr. Bowen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the statute in front of me, and I'll just cite from the pertinent parts. It says that with respect to each parcel of real property classified as Class 1 residential, so we're talking homes and residences here, it is at the option of the Board of Selectmen. So this is not something that needs to go to town meeting. This is something that lies within your discretion if you want to do it. It provides for an exemption equal to but not more than 20% of the average assessed value of all Class 1 residential parcels within the town. So what that would work out to in terms of a dollar figure, I think we would probably want to discuss with the assessors, but it provides for that amount. The statute goes on to say that parcel shall mean a unit of real property as defined by the assessors in accordance with the deed and shall include a condominium unit. So condos are included in this. There is some DOR guidance available. I think it's IGR 91-208, dealing with properties that are in trust. So if somebody's property was in trust, it's possible that it could be eligible for this sort of exemption. So the bottom line is that this is a recognized methodology for granting full-time residents, people whose property is their primary residence located in Wareham, a tax exemption of up to 20%. What I'd respectfully suggest is that if this were something that you were interested in pursuing further, that perhaps our new director of assessing could come in and give us a scenario as to how it would actually work out with the numbers. This is in effect in a number of communities. Of course, the most well-known, of course, is the city of Boston, which provides this for residents. I believe Brookline has a similar thing, and towns on the Cape do this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, my purpose, again, in bringing this forward to the board wasn't to seek support for it or a decision on it or to even get down into the nitty-gritty of it. It was just to introduce the concept of it. I think it's important for us to look at the various means of tax relief. I think it's important for us to discuss them. Whether we choose to adopt them or not, of course, it depends on what we think is the best policy. But if nothing else, I want people to see that we're at least looking at these things. I think it's important to do that regardless of the override. And this discussion will certainly continue, I would hope, regardless of the result tomorrow.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Titlebaum and Mr. Bowen, for bringing this to us. According to the article, and I just would like to actually read it into the record, there are currently 12 municipalities in Massachusetts that have adopted this exemption, including Nantucket and Barnstable, as well as Boston, Cambridge, and Brookline. Brookline we think of as being a very wealthy community. And of course, Nantucket is a place where natives can no longer afford to live. I think if you look at the demographics of Mashpee, it is a town with a higher proportion of older residents, and the population generally earns below a median income. Our year-round residents are suffering economically. Explaining, this is the gentleman who was proposing it, explains his rationale for establishing the working group and adding that this is the only way he can think of to provide some tax relief. It is clear to me that we share some of the demographics with Mashpee, certainly with Boston, and I would encourage us to have a conversation, do more homework on it, and have the new assessor come before us with some numbers, and I would ask that we do that. I know she's brand new here, but I think it's a discussion that we need to undertake more quickly than not, and her input is vital. So I'd ask maybe in a couple of weeks or something. When are you going to be away? Okay, like maybe 3 weeks or something like that.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes?
Well, I think any plan is certainly worth looking at. Mr. Titlebaum's not looking for an answer today. I think someone has to represent our seasonal people. They pay what everybody else pays, and they only use services here now with the kids getting out of school June 23rd. In most communities, they're only here July, August, and maybe a couple days in September now with Labor Day. And some schools even go back before Labor Day. So the season is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. I don't know if the 20% or whatever that is just gets moved to the winter people, or not sure how that works, but I'm sure it'd be great conversation to have. Still doesn't really reduce the tax burden on the town. It sounds like it's an equal number. You're not raising taxes by doing this. You're just shifting the tax. So if you had $50 million before, you're going to have $50 million after. It's just a matter of who pays what. It's just the ratio. And, you know, I haven't supported the split, 50-50. I don't support that against business. I think we're starting to bring business into town. And, you know, who do we go after next after overrides? Did Mashpee have an override recently?
I don't believe that was referenced in the article. I don't think that their examination of this was in relation to an override. It was in relation to just property tax relief.
Just it was one of his campaign issues. I remember when he brought it up. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's good that we're going to discuss it. I was just wondering if we're following the same pattern of an override question and then shifting the tax burden to people that are only here a couple of, 8 weeks a year, 9 weeks a year. I don't know. It'd be fun to listen and watch. I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Tropiano?
Okay, no, I think we have to look at everything. Anything that helps our residents, so we have to look at everything. And I totally agree, Peter. Let's take a peek at it and see where we go with it. So, I'm okay.
I looked at this a little while ago when it was first listed there. The interesting piece is, which I think is really important, is they are trying to get this done by the end of July for their little working group, so the people in August, the people who would be affected are physically there, so they can actually contribute. The idea of doing something with everybody, basically having the time to express their opinions is really important.
You mean a workshop group?
When we get to that point, after we get the assessors in it, because once you come up with an idea you want to do, you really should have a workshop at that point, because it's under our purview.
Yeah, well, I would suggest that's only if we decide to proceed after hearing from the assessor. The assessor may have information that, is offered to us that chooses or makes us choose to stay with what we have. So, I mean, that's why I certainly don't want to, I'm not advocating for this at this point in time. I'm just saying that we need to take a look at it.
I'll either schedule for the 8th or the 15th, whichever works out for the assessor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please keep all the information. Just as a quick aside, if everybody notices, there's little floating little boxes with little files behind everybody. There's 5 of them. I refuse to kill any more trees off. Every time we get paperwork, we seem to insist we get it each time we have a meeting. We don't discuss it. So any files that are going to be used in the future, please use the storage areas in the back so we don't have to kill trees. Thank you.
Okay. I got to go back. I had one appointment I missed. It was in the bottom here, so. William Lockwood, is he here? No, okay. I move we appoint William Lockwood of Onset, Mass. to the Community Preservation Committee as the housing rep. It's here to be appointed, so I thought we did this before, but anyway, to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017. I think this was...
We were holding it because
we were holding it because we
special.
hadn't given the exemption yet, which we did last week. so-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Can we get that break?
We're going to take a 5-minute break. Bathroom break, basically. Thank you.
We're taking a break?
5-minute break. Lands on the floor. 3, 4, 5. No thanks. Oh, it's a soccer game. For those out there interested, the soccer game is 1-1, the U.S. and Ghana.
US and
Okay.
So we're going to skip, go ahead, I'll ask the question afterwards.
Okay, so she's not prepared, so we're going to hold that off.
Just a second. Mr. White, are we set? Go ahead, Mr. Tropiano. Sorry.
Okay, so next would be 0208, but I guess Mr. Titlebaum's not ready yet, so we're going to hold that.
Mr. Titlebaum?
No, I haven't had a chance to meet with Attorney Bowen yet to go over a schedule. I think we could probably do that by email. What we're doing is looking at the permitting itself and talk, as you brought up last week, Selectman Holmes, the idea of individual vendor amounts,
Right.
the town charging for those permits. So what I want to do is work with Attorney Bowen to come up with a schedule for that as we agreed. So I didn't have a chance this week to get with him.
I'd like to get that in by June 30th, though. I'd like to
Yeah.
make that the cutoff.
Absolutely.
Well, we can get it done for next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
No, you will not be here next week, correct?
I will be here next week.
You will.
Yes,
24th.
yes.
Okay, I will reschedule for the 24th.
Very good.
Thank you. Next item.
Next up would be sewer issues. We'll bring Guy down front now for sewer business, please. Come on down, Guy.
This is your week.
And next up will be, the first on the agenda will be a sewer connection for Route 28 and Toby Road.
This is the property basically in front of the Walmart project. For those who haven't been informed, Walmart, I believe, is breaking ground at 9 o'clock on the 20th, right at the Toby Road. You can see the work being done now, clearing out.
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having me. In front of you, I guess starting off, is Route 28 and Toby Road. I believe I submitted the plans and the application to you, set of plans.
Let's get the sewer flow
And I guess the long and short of it, I had looked at the numbers. It talks about 11,975 gallons per day of flow. That's based on Title V flow. And in reality, sewer is a little less. But I factored 11,975 on the Title V flow. And the only impact they'd have is the Springborn Station, and it wouldn't be any impact. When you break it down, 1440, it's about 8 gallons per minute. If I factor a peak flow of 3, it's about 24, and so it should be no impact to the station whatsoever.
Okay.
Questions, Mr. Titlebaum?
I think you answered any I would have had.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you.
No, sir.
Mr. Tropiano?
I'm all set.
Guy, my only questions really have nothing to do with this particular project. It's part of what we've been developing. We will be having the workshop, in case those people forget, this Saturday to discuss how we go forward with EDU or fixed rate, usage or whatever as we work this along. My question to you is, with this particular project, unless we get the I&I and some of the other issues resolved, how much farther along do we have for gallon capacity before we run into a problem as far as business expanding?
Approximately about 130,000 gallons.
So we're
Per
down
day of
to
flow.
less than a 10% figure. So we're, basically, the DEP will be watching us at this point then.
Well, the DEP actually watches us when you have a continual 80% of your
Correct.
1.56 for a rolling 30-day average. So we're quite a ways from that. And what we're saying is we have 130 gallons of our limit, which would be 80%. And then at that point, we'd have to go 30 consecutive days.
So the explanation is we have 100,000 gallons to go before we hit the 80, which at
Correct.
that point there, we have to have some plans working in place and working, or else we will have a problem.
Correct. I&I is yeah, absolutely. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
the Swiss
correct.
Beach project is gonna be huge.
I've got some plans. I believe I sent them out. I'm
Yeah,
not
we
so
did.
sure.
Yes, you did. I sent it out to everybody.
It's going to be huge. I've had those plans reviewed for
That's
second
gonna add
opinion,
a lot of
and
flow when you see how
they've
many
been
gallons.
confirmed, so.
Wait till you see the I&I in there when that finally comes online. It's gonna be unbelievable. Always has been a problem area.
It has been, it has been.
For those of the people who are watching TV and do not know the shorthand, what is I&I?
Infiltration and inflow. Infiltration is groundwater seeping into the pipes, especially during tidal action. Inflow is anything coming from the top. As you remember, in Swiss Beach, we removed about 100,000 gallons of I&I, which I have not added back in because I want to wait a year to verify it. We had 4 catch basins tied into the sanitary sewer, and we blocked that. So the CDM said 137,000 gallons per day of I&I. and I won't count that until I have a year of continual flow to verify what that reduction is, but, so we may have more money, have more flow to add to the bank next year when I verify that.
Okay. Just as one other point, just keep on in track. I've been pushing constantly about the possible project with CMAS to take output from us to give us another $500,000 gallons reserve that way. So I'm hoping we continue that as well.
I sent an email off looking for a meeting. So as soon as I get a response, I'll let you know, and we'll sit down with them and go at it again. And I think this time we'll present it through the selectmen. Last time I did it on my own, but I think you're right, with the town administrator and the selectmen involved, I think we'll have better results.
So you're looking for a motion from us to authorize the connection?
Correct.
Yes, I need
Thank you.
authorization for the connection.
We're all set. Anybody with, Patrick, want to make a motion, please?
Yep. I move we approve the connection for flow up to 11,975 gallons per day for S&H Realty LLC in favor of R.J. Conley and Associates. Now, this doesn't really have a thing. I guess they're planning on marketing this. Is that it?
They're proposing three pieces right
Yeah,
now
but there's
with a fourth
nothing
layer.
here yet, right?
Unless Mr. Robinson has anything firm that he would like to say. If not, there's no problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
So should you include Route 28 and Toby Road in your motion?
Yeah, I mean, 28 and Toby Road, or
I think-
according, how about for,
I think the project
about
is known as Route 28 and Toby Road is the actual
how about
project.
in relationship to the plan by R.J. Conley and Associates, Inc., 28 and Toby Road?
Second.
Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Okay, moving right along. Next up is the possible vote on grease ordinance.
I believe everybody's had the information for a little while.
Yep.
Mr. Campine has done his Greasezilla presentation.
No, this is,
Is it a different one?
Greasezilla is different from this. This is
All right.
simply accountability. We have quite a few restaurants on sewer.
So this is Cease the Grease?
This is cease the grease in the restaurants.
Okay, thank
Cease the
you.
grease for the residents is coming down. We'll get back to that one also. That's going to be exciting, too. This is simply stating that restaurants, by Title V regulations, are supposed to be pumping out quarterly their grease traps. That's not happening in the town of Wareham. I've been responding to sewer overflows. I've been responding to restaurants that are backing up and overflowing simply because they do not clean the grease trap. What I'm asking is to put some teeth into the policy through the sewer department. So there's some definitions here, and then it goes on to say what I'd like to have, set up some policy where restaurants are required to hire somebody to monitor that septic tank or the grease trap quarterly, as it's supposed to. And there's also a form that they fill out that talks about percent of solids, condition of the tank, and does it have to be pumped? Because some tanks may not need to be pumped quarterly, because if you have a restaurant that doesn't do a lot of grease, I always think of Subway, who put in a tremendous grease system, or may never pump it because they don't do anything more than prepare salads and greens. They don't do any cooking per se. Then we have restaurants that cook with a lot of grease that should be done monthly, but by the pumper going there actually doing a test to get the percent of grease, which is to be 25%, he may find that it's quarterly is frequent enough, monthly may be more appropriate, or every 6 months may be appropriate. So that's what I'm asking for in one, and of course it goes right on. It talks about things like training. It's important that the staff know how to properly handle the grease facility. There's actually signage that's covered by the plumbing code that's supposed to be in there. So all these things are policies that are in place throughout the state. Many communities already have them. And this particular policy, I looked at Boston, Taunton, and Bill Ricker. And this is what I pulled out, the ones of all those that have been approved and found to be effective, and I added them to this. So I'm asking for your approval here so I can start this grease program and get some grease pumping going on in the town of Wareham.
Question, do you actually have an actual ordinance put together? I have nothing in this package here, is why I'm asking.
I think I emailed everybody and
Yeah,
sent it
I
out.
did
I'm sorry, you
before.
don't have them? I sent them out. If you don't have them, I apologize.
Let me check and see.
We started this in June of 2012.
I think.
I don't think we've got this before.
Yeah, we've had this for a
I think
while.
we've seen this, I think
Yeah.
about 3 separate times.
Yep, we have.
It's probably time to just vote on it.
It's been around quite some time.
Can I just ask a question while you? May I ask a question?
Go ahead, sorry.
The other day, I thought I saw a, what I thought was a grease pumping truck. Do they identify themselves as such? It was parked outside of a local restaurant.
Look, they could be a truck that would pump either grease or septic, but they also have,
No, it said grease on it.
yes, it also has for the internal grease, the oil, which has a tremendous value. People like Baker Commodities
Mhm.
and some other, I think there's Cape Cod Biofuel. These folks go after this and they
Mhm, yeah.
pay for it. So you may have very well saw that. I think I was in Onset and Baker Commodities today was in Mark Anthony's taking out a bunch of it too. So they go out there and they pay for it. They pay cash for it.
Okay, so,
We're looking for the brown grease, we call it. What happens is, coming out of a restaurant, you have 2 lines. The cooking sink and certain apparatuses, specifically cooking sinks, they call them kitchen sinks. All the waste from that goes into an internal grease trap. Then it goes to an external grease trap. Then it meets up with the sanitary sewer line and then out to the sewer.
that's where you were talking about those flapper things that were to prevent the backflow or something,
They
yeah.
have them,
Yeah.
it's not necessary, but have them, yes, they do. So you can't get contamination.
Right,
Because the grease you want to pump separate from the sewage, if you will, the sanitary. Although, when you're tied to sewer, you don't have a septic tank. If you had a non-sewer restaurant, you'd have a septic tank and a grease tank. But on the sewered restaurants, we have just a grease trap. So anything from the kitchen goes to the grease trap. It pulls all the grease and oil out, and then it goes on into the sewer. And the sanitary goes parallel to that, then ties in behind the grease trap or further down the line. And so sanitary and grease will meet after the fact. But
I don't understand that. I mean,
Okay.
why, well, if you have them in 2 separate places, why are you putting them back together again?
Once it comes, we're trying to remove, the water is what we're looking for. Sanitary water is fine, but in the grease, it's the solids we want to remove from the grease.
Right.
And the solids is what causes problems in the sanitary. Here's a picture of what happens when solids get into a manhole. This is a backed up manhole on West Boulevard, and it's caused quite a bit of a problem. So what happens is the oil comes usually at a hotter temperature. It goes into the grease trap. And how it works is a square box. And the square box has sanitary tees that go almost to the floor of the grease trap. So it comes down to the bottom, and then what happens is the oils rise, or the scum we call it, or the grease, everything rises to the top. And so the sanitary tee going out is 12 inches, so just the water can go out. Then we collect all the grease. Then a pump truck comes and grabs it. So it doesn't come to the sewer. Because once grease gets in the sewer, it cools down and coagulates, kind of like arteries.
So this is one of your pre-treatment
Absolutely.
buildings?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Grease traps are pre-treatment. And so what happens if they're not pumped and cleaned regularly, then that grease just gets thick, then it comes out to the sewer. And then it causes a problem like this.
Hmm.
So we're asking just to, and Title V already speaks to it, but there's no enforcement of it. So I'm just asking for a policy to get, so I can go out there and say you need to pump. And if you read it, some of it talks about, we go out there and do an annual inspection, they gotta give us records and that type of thing to make sure it's happening, to keep it out. If you really wanna see it, go to Depot Street, which is the strip, 6 and 28 strip. That's the last pump station before it comes to us. And you can see it for yourself, how much grease we're taking in the course of a day.
I can go, you would take me on
I
a
would
field
take you
trip?
there. Absolutely, I'll show you.
I'm
what it
not
looks
going to
like.
that one on Lopes Field.
No, that one's not as bad, but we do have some issues there. But they just, because we're getting all the grease and it stays in the wet wells. So the wet wells at all times have 4, 5, 6 foot blankets of grease. So it creates a problem, a capacity problem for us, a pumping problem. So a lot of different issues that we have to deal with. And we're putting Venturis in there and bacteria. We're trying all kinds of innovative ways to remove the grease. Plus, it's quite odorous when it hits the EQ basin. And now that we got it covered, we can really see it. And when we take the pads off, they're really odorous. Because last weekend we did our testing.
Gonna do a couple things.
So,
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Tropiano?
Yeah, I obviously understand what he's trying to get to here. I'd like to do a little bit more homework for me before I establish this. I'd like to have a little longer time.
A week?
A week is fine. Do you want to put it on then, or do you want to put it on the next,
No, I'd like to give him the,
next time we meet?
I'd like to give him the tools that he's asking for,
Well,
presuming that, you know, you're the most knowledgeable.
yeah, I'd like to I need a week, but maybe it should go to the next sewer meeting.
No,
Yeah, I don't want to drag him back.
no, we don't have to drag him back, but we can approve his request while he's not here. We frequently, in fact, on tonight's agenda, we did things that had nothing to do with sewer.
Mr. Bowen, I have one question for you then. In this plan, we have a review fee of $50 and also an annual $100 fee. Are we required to have a public hearing first on this, even though it's?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're not required to. The process of adopting regulations by sewer commissioners is governed by Chapter 83, Section 10.
Right.
And all 83, Section 10 requires is that once you've reached a regulation that you're happy with, that it be published in the newspaper, and that the regulations state that until it's published in the newspaper, it's not effective. So either with respect to the fees found herein or the actual terms, it's not necessary for you to hold a public hearing. It's the publication in the newspaper that is the sole statutory requirement.
Well, what I'll first do is ask for just a hand vote of whether the board wants to go ahead and continue now or wait a week or so and come back. Ms. Titlebaum?
You said a hand vote.
Yeah,
hand vote.
what was your hand vote about?
Do we want to go ahead or do we want to wait a week till Mr. Tropiano gets back to us? Some members are ready to
Well-
vote and some aren't.
Well, I'm inclined to wait. The only thing I would suggest is that if Mr. Tropiano has further questions of the sewer commissioner, then we just push it off to the next sewer commissioner meeting.
I mean, I can do it by next week if you really need to, but I mean, we can do it either way. I don't care.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we've had this for 3 months or something.
2012 we started, 6/2012.
I can do it next week if you want. It's okay.
Please.
That's fine. That's fine.
May we have it on the agenda next week for a vote?
I will put it on the agenda with an actual thing to vote on
Thank you.
Thank you.
for the 24th. Thank you all.
And I'll make myself available if there are any questions. That's not a problem.
Yeah, really.
We'll get it resolved. We'll get it resolved. It won't be a big deal.
No problem.
I agree.
Next is tie and bond presentation of data.
I'll just give you a quick answer. Mr. Sullivan sent me a note. Ty and Bond will meet with a consultant tomorrow, which is Tuesday, to go over final numbers. Everything has been adjusted to reflect the fiscal year 15 budget and DOR report. They should have a deliverable that can be sent to the BOS electronically before the workshop. So basically, the Ty and Bond information is not available for us today. It probably will be done tomorrow. So
Okay.
we're going to pass by that one.
All right, so next up would be the sewer bank.
The
Mr.
sewer
Campino.
bank was simply, I wanted to deduce it, something I thought, something to deduce we can discuss at a later date, something to think about. And all the sewer bank is a charge, an infiltration, an inflow charge for every gallon somebody brings in, or every 5 gallons, maybe you make them remove a gallon. You attach a fee to that. And so I gave you an example of what Taunton is doing. Taunton is under, again, I keep using Taunton because they're the most hammered community that I know of right now. They're under the EPA consent order. And so this has been vetted, it's been tried, it's been challenged in courts, and it's been very successful. And so I give you that to study. And what I'm saying is that, matter of fact, let me get it for you. The back page of it, did you get a copy of it? I sent that
Yes.
out also.
We got it right
The very
here.
back page, it just simply says that each gallon has a value, a dollar value, and that money goes into the bank. And then that money is used specifically for Chase and I in the town. So to be funded, in other words, you bring 5 gallons in, you remove a gallon for somebody else. It's been very successful in many communities. So I think it's something we should discuss. I give you an opportunity to look at it, do some research, and I think we should sit down and discuss it and see about passing it and how it can benefit Wareham moving forward.
Okay. Say it again.
Sure.
In common American English that I understand,
I'm
please.
so-
No, you know,
it's-
what is the point of this?
The point of this is to finance Chase. It's very costly to remove inflow and infiltration.
Correct.
So as an example, let's say that we do have plenty of pipes on the beaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decide, or we discover as we camera them, that we have fractures and we have an inflow of groundwater. We need to remove it.
Right.
That's a cost. So what this program is saying is that, let's say that I decided to bring in my home or my business or whatever to the sewer system. And so you say to me is, okay, we have an I&I fee. It's a bank that we put money into. That's one way. Or we can say we put gallons into. So it gives you both options. So you are adding a gallon, or if for every 5 gallons you add, we say that you've got to pull out a gallon. We'll give you the project that needs to be done, and you go ahead and do it. Or you just put money into the bank, and we'll do it when we collect all this money.
Okay,
it's
so
just
is this,
another way of getting revenue to chase inflow and infiltration.
okay, so it's really a user fee to fix problems that may arise?
That we have, because what we have,
Yeah.
our responsibility is to establish inflow and infiltration.
Right,
Which we have, some areas we've actually identified.
okay.
Right now, again, Swiss Beach we identified, so we move forward on getting some actual costs. We know that we have pipes on the beach in Onset, Pinehurst, that are definitely giving us I&I.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we have a 21-inch pipe running all across the marsh between Swiss Beach and the town of Wareham behind where the old DPW is. That's when we know that we're getting I&I. So we know we have these I&I issues. The question is how do we finance them? Do we borrow the money and do it? And this is just one tool to have people contribute that are going to add to the system. They're contributing a portion to help us remove it. So it's not a user's fee, it's a one-time charge that you pay to tie in, just as like you would pay a connection fee or a sewer development fee or any other fee to tie in. This is just one more.
So
that's
it's
all.
not a betterment?
No, it's not a betterment, it's not an ongoing,
Connection.
it's just a
It's a
one-time.
connection
Under
fee.
the connection fee, it's a one-time.
You would do
Okay.
this on the residents as well?
Well, there's a proposal to do it, I'm not saying I would or
But the
wouldn't, but
residents-
it's there, read it, it's there, I don't
Obviously,
know.
the residents couldn't fund, you know, a gallon of flow from some other location, so they'd have to pay.
That's right. And in this, they talk about residents, there's a flat fee of $1 or
Yeah,
something
'cause
like
in
that. So-
commercial, I mean, they
Commercial's
have
big,
the
yeah.
ability to do that.
Yeah.
But on the residential side, they don't.
And that's the part of the discussion, the introduction, and we can go and look at it and what's more advantageous for the town of Wareham and the sewer system moving forward. It's just part of the discussion. It's all in here, all the options, things they've done. You see some deletions, but they've done quite a bit on this. It's working, and so I just want to bring it to the board and something. we
I'm
can
sorry,
consider.
I'm just having trouble understanding. If you take it away from one place, where does it go?
What happens, oh, that's a good question.
I mean, yeah,
One of the ways to get rid of I&I is to line pipes. So you have a pipe that's leaking. So
okay.
we got to go there, and let's say there's 100 feet of pipe that's leaking,
Mhm.
and one of the ways is they got these different type of liners, and you blow them in there, and they line the pipe, and so you stop that leak, fracture, or crack in that sewer pipe.
Okay.
So thereby eliminating the infiltration at that point. So that's just one.
Okay.
And so these lines go forever, and different pots have different levels or degrees of infiltration. Also, you've got the stacks, we call them, but they're laterals that come up out of the sewer main, and they go to the house. So those are something we should, that can be chased also. So we actually literally get rid of it by lining the pipe or whatever. In some cases, like in Swiss Beach, we're talking about a whole different system to get rid of it. And the beauty of that particular project is that once we get rid of it, it won't come back because it's a welded solid pipe. There's no place for infiltration. You see, pipes are put together, and you got rubber gaskets that over time leak, water gets in. There's different types of pipe, clay, asbestos, all kinds that get collars, they crack, and so you got water that comes in, so you camera them, you find them, and then you gotta go correct them. Most of these pipes are 15 feet down, 10 feet down, so you don't dig them up. It's too costly. You know, it's like, it costs us $100,000 to dig up 20 feet. That was down 15 feet. So you don't go chase them. So there's different type of procedures. One is go to the manhole and blow a liner in. Others is bring it up 4 feet and do, you know, a low pressure system. So you've got to remove it. You see, because, and the other thing is the cost. Not only do you gain gallons, but we're treating that water that doesn't need treatment. So we're spending chemicals, it's all blended in, so we pay chemicals, whatever we're doing to treat electricity, we're doing that, to move it from place to place. So all that is part of I&I and infiltration.
Ms. Whiteside, you set?
I think so. I think it was just not being able to understand
Yeah,
the concept of
removing
something
Removing.
and having, well, anyway.
We're just asking, all we're looking for is the funds to do this, because it's extremely expensive, extremely expensive.
Mr.
It's
Holmes?
millions.
Aren't there Fed grants and stuff?
There's, but you can borrow. But to do the same thing, we actually did, when you got your report, we did a counter one about relining it, and it's more money to reline those 15 feet in Swiss Beach than it would be to replace it,
Thank
to
you.
get out the I-9.
Yeah.
And then still have pipes.
We actually, once upon a time, there was a sewer line, a gravity feed line that came from the industrial park, and it failed miserably, so we pushed a 2-inch line inside of it, and now we pump it down. So there's all kinds of things like that that you do to stop the water from coming in, because you don't want to treat seawater and other things like that. Swiss Beach, we're treating the ocean, basically. You don't want to treat that because it's costly to do.
Yeah, the ocean wins.
And there's a lot of ocean, you know, to treat. So we don't want to do that. And how much, just as a guess, would you say that Swiss Beach's I&I is over 100,000?
We think around 100 plus,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say
Absolutely.
100,000 gallons a day
A day of I&I.
of
absolutely.
flow that we could gain in the sewer treatment plant by fixing that problem, just in that one area.
Okay, so the obvious question is, if water is able to get in, sewage is able to get out,
That's
right?
never discussed.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, hypothetically, you know what you say is right. It could happen if there was some pressure to go back, but the pressure, see, when the water flows down the pipe, it creates a vacuum, and the vacuum pulls, so you get suction, not you know what I mean, down the pipe instead of, it's almost like a vacuum cleaner. So a vacuum cleaner would have a leak, and it would suck in. It wouldn't allow it to go back. Now, hypothetically, if for some reason or another the sewer shuts down, the pumping station or whatever it is shuts down, hypothetically that could pressurize the line and push the sewer out into the.
So that's why you have the emergency gens?
Yeah.
And we have generators that never stop. Plus, if you got a really seasonal 100-year low tide, and the tide gets well below the pipes, there's a possibility as the tide goes out, that you can pull in sewer with it too.
Right.
So it's just something we don't talk about. It's,
Mr. Campbell, this is basically a City of Taunton ordinance you gave us as a sample.
Yes, that's, we can play with it.
Are you looking for us to write an ordinance with your help or
I'm
not?
gonna write, and I thought that we could write, I could submit, you can write, whatever, but I'm thinking it's a team effort, maybe a workshop. I'm not really so sure the best way to pursue it, but I'm gonna keep pursuing it. I'm gonna write some things, and I'll throw it around, I'll throw it at our attorney, and play with it, and then figure out where we go with it.
Yes, Mr. Bone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple points. Number one, city ordinances, unlike town bylaws, don't get reviewed by the Attorney General.
Please.
So the fact that something may have been adopted by Taunton or any of our other fine city forms of government in the Commonwealth
Doesn't guarantee us anything.
doesn't guarantee us anything. And the other thing that we want to pay very close attention to is the so-called Emerson College test. It's a 35-year-old case that distinguishes between what is a legitimate regulatory fee and what is an illegal tax. And if I can just summarize the 3 high points to it. Number one, the charges must be paid in exchange for a particular governmental service which benefits the party paying the fee in a manner, quote, not shared by other members of society. Secondly, the charges are paid by choice, and that the party paying the fee has the option of not utilizing the governmental service and thereby avoid the charge. And third, the charges are collected not to raise revenues, but to compensate the governmental entity providing the services for its expenses. Those are very important issues that we will want to look at closely as we look at the sewer bank.
I agree, and there's not only Taunton, but there's been other communities that have had the same problem. I remember having this discussion with a former selectman, I think it was, well anyways, a former selectwoman, and she had, and we pursued this, and we found a couple of cases that were resolved. So it's something we talked about a couple, 3 years ago, but yes, it's a good idea, and it got stopped at many communities because of the challenge of Emerson, and it's past that, so it's now, you'll see it starting to come back. Many communities are starting to bring it back because of those litigations, and so it's kind of a, you know, that's why I brought it back, because I see these things, I said, well, it's good to strike while it's hot, yeah, and go forward with it. So.
Mr. Titlebaum?
So you're saying that this might get a little bit outside of our authority under Chapter 83, Section 10?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not necessarily. It's just that we would want to make sure that all the legal elements that distinguish a fee from an illegal tax are in place and satisfied. That's all.
Thank you.
Just one question. If we assign one of the sewer commissioners to work with Mr. Campina, are we violating any open meeting laws or anything?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I would ask that probably one of the board members, if they'd like to step up to help him.
How about me?
I'm asking for a volunteer.
I volunteer, I
All
guess.
right, so Mr.
Thank you.
Campina, will you work with Mr. Tropiano and
Absolutely.
get us back a document that actually fits Wareham?
Absolutely.
And then please get,
Absolutely.
when you get to a point where it looks like you're close to a draft, get a copy to town council, so when we all see it and talk about it, we'll be on the same page.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, next is the EDU audit analysis.
Okay.
I thought this was gonna be the workshop thing, right?
I think the question was whether we had any questions from it before we went into that.
No, well, I don't know about anybody else. What? I'm all set until we get to the
Mr.
workshop.
Titlebaum, any questions on that? Mrs. Whiteside?
No.
Okay, cool.
Mr. Holmes? I have none at all. Next item up is the
EDU
fund
set
line.
rate for next billing, I think that has to wait too.
I believe we actually,
No, don't we have to do it?
we're actually going to go ahead and, I believe you've come back with a conservative number as far as the EDU coming for the next billing period.
I got an empty folder.
We have numbers, and I don't know, Mr. Chairman, through you, we have numbers. But at this point, I would like to say to you, I would respectfully request that we leave the EDU where it is, and that should produce a budget surplus, which could be voted at the town meeting in the fall to be used in 2015 budget or to become a surplus and carry over. I'm waiting to hear from the DOER. I called Mr. Blake Zachary about that, because in reality is we've had a new budget set this year, as you're probably aware of, and it should give us the ability to lower the EDU. Why I would not want to do that is because we have a lot of expenses. We're talking about changing the EDU structure. It could be expense, it could be, we may need revenues. We've got a lot of capital outlay projects that are greater than normal capital projects. And so I'm of the opinion that 596 we've been paying right along. And I think if we continue to pay it and we're able to save money, then that money should be banked for all these projects we're talking about because they need to be financed. What I don't want to do is come back one day to the voters and say, oh, by the way, we lowered your EDU. Now I have to raise them, or even if it's a user fee, whatever we go to. Now I have to raise them because we've got to raise all these funds for these projects because we know they're out there. There's no secret as to what we're faced with. So I think it would be prudent and be wise for us to leave things as they are and take that surplus with the direction of the DOR and put that money away because we're going to use it.
So your recommendation is to have the fee be $596?
Continue, yes, to continue on. That'd be my recommendation.
Mr. Tropiano?
I totally agree with him. You know, it's sort of what everybody's fit into their budget at this point.
Yes.
And if it's going to help us with our long-term capital issues, which we definitely need to plan ahead for, because, look, we're trying to show the residents that we're on top of this stuff, and that we're not sitting back waiting for disasters to show up. And I would hate to come down the road and have to come up with some huge increase in order to cover capital issues. Anybody prudently puts money aside for the issues that are going to be coming down the road. And since everybody's already used to paying that rate, I think that's the wise choice.
I agree.
Mr. Holmes?
You know, I guess I could ask the question here, because the more this goes on, the more it makes no sense to me. So, when do we finally get election of responsible, full-time, dedicated sewer commissioner?
May 1st of 2015.
The election is before that, but that's when they can take,
That's when they take office.
that's when they take office.
So our next election in April, we're actually gonna hire people to do this, because this is not
No, we're
good.
going to
not
elect people
hired.
to do it.
I've said this before, this is important stuff, and we give him 1 week a month, and he'll come anytime, but stuff doesn't get approved, you gotta wait, you gotta keep coming back. That's why we isolated one night. That's not really working too well for me. A lot of this stuff should be ongoing, I think, because you've dug the trenches and you've found all this stuff, and this should be treated on a full-time basis, not once a month. So I can't wait for that, and I think that I fully support the way you want to do it, Guy. It's up to you. I'll tell you that from the beginning. As long as you're doing the right thing, that's the way to do it.
Well, as this is...
And
Sorry.
and I hate to say this, because I'm not going to fall in the same trap, but, I mean, I'll certainly support it. I would like to have had a comment from the town administrator, but I'm not interested in letting that hold it up. Okay.
We've changed, through the DOR, you've changed the way you do your accounting, because we basically have been saving, right along, because of the way we've done our costs of the setup versus, what we get in, what we spend, because we've taken certain monies and added into the total cost.
We have money set aside. You're absolutely right. Excess of $3 million, maybe more, and $2 million in retained. But again, to continue to save, I just really want to emphasize, Mr. Chairman, that we have capital outlay. I mean, just to do Swiss Beach and Onset, we're looking at $30 million.
Understand.
That's quite a bit of money. And that's not talking the other things. As an example, I spent 19 hours at the plant last Thursday because SCADA went down. I upgraded SCADA last year at $20,000. This newest upgrade, I have no idea. And so I'm waiting for the numbers. So these are the type of things. The plant is 10 years old. And when you talk about electronics, 10 to 15, they're done. So what I'm saying to you is that we have known, or we know of some outlay issues, and there's some we don't know about. And again, to put money aside, and I agree with Selectman Tropiano, is that we're not asking to go up, and I'm not asking to go down. We're doing what we've been doing right along. And so if we have an opportunity to put some of that money in the bank, because through an enterprise, we can have a surplus budget. So to me, it makes sense to do that, and go from there.
I'm going to differ with everybody. I am concerned that at one point, we had a very high EDU rate, and we actually lost the town administrator over a fight on that, because the board at that time wanted to cut the EDU rate by 2/3, and it ended up down at 596, and I'll still state what I always think, is we basically pulled the number off our butts. We don't have a proper number that I can vote for going forward, no matter what we do. I want to see a capital number that goes in for long-term planning for replacements. I believe the EDU rate as it's set up right now doesn't have a capital figure in it. It's just a number that's there. It doesn't have any effect on that at all, and it doesn't work for me at all. I mean, sitting here looking at it, I can't sit there and justify to anybody that number. I don't know what the number is. That's the problem. I don't. If you pull out the expenses and stuff, I believe the actual EDU is lower, but then we have to come up with a program for capital that goes in with it, because it's what the town has done. The town has taken in other areas Instead of having money put aside for replacement, for infrastructure, we've taken those funds, which we call depreciation, whatever you want to call it, and used it to keep this town operating. We're doing the same thing with the water pollution control facility. We're basically taking and operating this without putting something aside as things wear out. We know everything
agree.
wears out.
I agree. Capital improvement plan we've been doing ourselves, and we're not the experts, but just the pump stations right now, we're looking at 1.3 million. We've got 5 kettle station replaces, 1.5 million. We're looking at the plant itself to upgrade the electronics and the blowers and areas, that's 1.5 million. And then, of course, the 30 million that we talked about. We're also getting ready to move forward with the actual capital improvement plan. We'll have an engineering firm come out and doing that for us. And what they do is they come in and they do a complete plan, and they give you a projected cost for capital improvements for 20 years. And so it's a working document, and we're doing that now. So what I'm saying is that we've put all these pieces into place, and I agree that they haven't been done at the general fund side or the enterprise side. We've just been floating along, I agree. Now it's time to be responsible, make some responsible decisions, and we're trying to do that, and we are moving forward. So you can have a number you're satisfied with because you can see hard numbers based upon life expectancy and actual depreciation of the material. You can see that. In the meantime, what I'm saying is that we're paying $596, and we have a potential to lower the EDU. Absolutely, I agree. But what I'm saying is because we're paying the $596, let's maintain that, change nothing, and that'll give us a surplus. And I can assure you that we'll use that money to do all these capital improvement plans. So when we finally get the CIP, and we get maybe a new procedure to bill, I don't know, but at that point, you know, we can make those decisions, but we have money in the bank to do that. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Holmes was asking if he could ask you what your number is for the actual EDU cost.
If I do the basis on what I'm projecting for EDUs, actual EDUs, the bill and the customers, it's approximately $525 I could lower the EDU to. You guys could potentially lower it to. So it's $72 that we're talking about. And I'm saying take that $72 per home, per EDU, and put it in the bank. That's what I'm saying.
I understand. And that number also is based on a conservative number of EDUs as well.
That is based
Because
upon
we're
a
still
conservative
working on
number.
that.
There's more, we're working, right now, we estimated 1,050 EDUs. Right this second, we have 1,030. All right, and we've got the rest of the year. We've got a project we're doing in Oakdale. We're still continue doing our EDU audit. We just sent out 45 letters. So we're gonna continue to do EDU auditing. We're still gonna raise the EDU, so I don't see us having a problem, so.
It goes back 20 years plus. Mr. Titlebaum.
I understand your desire to maintain it. It's allowed you to build up some level of reserves against what you've just identified between Swiss Beach, Onset, and the various plant improvements. There's a $34.3 million bill that's probably payable, I would guess, over the next 10 or 15 years.
I'm sure.
Or-
Easily 20
Easily.
years.
Yeah, my question is, you know, we've been banking, I guess, the $71 for a while now.
We have not.
How,
Banking.
No.
how is it, well, how, if, that's my question then, is you identified, I think, $3 million?
What happened was we had two accounts, 6,000, 6,001. 6,001 money was taken, the betterment that people were paying and put into this account with no ability to remove it back in. So it hasn't been going into the budget. That money is there, identified by DOR, and that's the funds that's going to go to capital improvements.
When they did the DOR report, Peter, the analysis, there was some issues because of prior accounting practices that were corrected. After basically as the DOR report was coming through, this goes back about 3 or 4 years. The bottom line is the DOR report thought we were in fantastic shape, and we were, because we had, I believe, $6 million
No.
over. And the problem is that when Mr. Campino explained to the DOR that we were looking at a possible project of $20 million, they thought it was really nice we had put money aside, but we hadn't really put enough aside yet.
Then I guess my question is, at what rate have we accumulated how much money towards the 34.3? Those are the two things I'd like to know.
We haven't accumulated, the only money we have is what we've been accumulating the past few years because of the accounting of the 6,001 account established for capital projects.
How much is that?
Yeah,
That's $6 million.
so $6 million
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
is,
It wasn't gonna get to his hands.
It's fine.
Sorry.
It's okay.
That's
so
what
$6 million over 3 or 4 years?
To my knowledge, 3 to 4 years, yes.
So
We collect
between-
$1 million, $1.4 million annually. If you look at this year's budget,
Okay, that's
done
the
by
number I'm
the,
looking at.
the 1.4 is what's coming to the budget now, which gives us the potential to lower the EDUs.
I guess my concern is we're talking about $34.3 million, and to get there at $1.4 million a year is gonna take quite a while, isn't it?
It's not gonna solve our problem. You're still gonna have to borrow money, et cetera, when you go out and do this.
So if we're looking at the EDU rate, if we're gonna take this in terms of both providing the actual service, the intake, the maintenance, without any massive improvements, then 525 is the number. If we're looking at massive improvements, 596 may well not be the number when you get down to it.
When we get the final report done, we'll have a real number, and how we get there, whether it's borrowing money through the SRF funding or how we do it, I can't say at this point.
Right.
But all I'm saying is that the 596, let's continue, and we have ability to bank some money, you know, is what, it's gonna have benefit, because I think it comes out to, you know, $500,000, and that has benefit. We can leverage that or do whatever. I'm not a banker, but I'm sure you can leverage that money, so.
Yes, you can.
When will we have this most recent information?
On what, CIP?
Yes.
That's 6 months out. It's a long process,
Can't
because
wait that long to set a rate, so.
I believe we're gonna have to set a rate, so I would ask someone for motion to go ahead with that at this point.
I'll move the rate be established at $596.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Abstain? 410. Just to explain, I'm abstaining, not abstaining, I'm voting no because I'm just not happy. I said I would not go forward in the future setting a rate that I couldn't justify. So I'm just letting everybody know that, you know, next time around I'll do the same thing. I'm not gonna go until I have a number that I can sign my name to. Thank you.
All right, so next up is the sewer workshop, which is Saturday.
Again, 10 o'clock here in this room, this coming Saturday. Ty and Bond will be here as well. Thank you all.
All right,
Yes,
discussion of
Commissioner.
sewer policies.
I have no, at this time, I have no policy to discuss. I'm looking at some, I was given a packet, and it's just been difficult to get to that packet of sewer policies. There's so much going on. I apologize for that. There's a couple that I did pick on that I'd like to look at, and I'm working on those diligently. One of them is the way we bill restaurants by seating, and right now, we're relying on the Board of Health to count numbers, and what concerns me is that we need to know what the engineered seating capacity of that restaurant is. And so if the Board of Health goes in and it counts 100 seats, we don't know if that floor plan can handle those 100 seats. And I'm worried that if I bill somebody for something that may be improper, I may have problems down the road. So what I'm looking at is maybe going through inspectional services, because usually when the restaurant comes along, they make them do an engineered floor plan, how many seats go, and I think that's more exact. And that'll max our billing at that number opposed to what's counted for chairs. So that's one of them I'm working on, so,
Once we get to flow rates, that won't be a problem.
yeah, so I think, so we'll,
We also should tackle the one issue that came up through Mr. Tropiano on businesses like service stations, whatever they have with bays.
EDU,
The
absolutely.
bay thing we have to deal with.
That's-
We still have to deal with that. That's
I'd like to
coming
see
up.
that come back sooner than later.
I have that's a policy, that's the EDU policy. And so at your workshop, we're discussing a way of future billing and then implementation, that's a ways away. In the interim, we can talk about all those things, because under that, what we're talking about, it also brings about some other issues we need to discuss too. But yeah, that's great, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
We can discuss that.
All right, so then next up will be any sewer business not reasonably anticipated in the last 48 hours.
Yes, Mr. Holmes made a point, which I felt all along, that the idea of dedicating the one meeting a month really doesn't work that well, because we end up putting other stuff in there. If the board's willing to vote for it, I'd like to go back to where we put the sewer issues in as they come up.
No.
Be able to react easier with it.
We
Questions from the board?
Yeah, we were asked to segregate and, you know, pick a time specific that we dealt with sewer issues. I think it's important for us and for Mr. Campina to know that we absolutely, on the third, whatever it is, get it done. And it's incumbent upon us to get our act together, and I mean, the way that we were doing it before was really scattershot. I think if you concentrate on an issue, you get it done. You move it forward.
Mr. Titlebaum?
I certainly think it's good to have this on the agenda every third Tuesday. My reservation, and that was my reservation right from the beginning when this was first proposed, is that on the nights when sewer business is light, I don't know that sewer affairs take up 25% of our time in a given month. I'd like to see the agenda opened up so that unless we have what you anticipate to be a lengthy sewer commissioner portion, I'd like to see some of the regular business getting done as well, which I think you've kind of been doing a little bit here and there, but I'd like to just go back to doing it that way while, not have dragging him in here every single week when I don't think it's necessary to do so.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, I don't see this working at all. So we still drag feet, move things next week, next month. Nothing's gotten done that I can see. We have a workshop on Saturday. Hopefully we'll get something done then, but then again, it's only a workshop. Like on this fee, just a good example is the fee thing tonight. His turn comes up, he needs an answer today. We could have been working on this for 3 weeks and maybe come up with a different number that would have satisfied the chairman. No, sewer business, one night a month. And this is a huge, 33 million bucks, I think I just heard. And we give it one night a month for what, 45 minutes? Real proud to be a sewer commissioner, right? Not. It's not working. We need to dedicate more time.
Mr. Tropiano?
Well, I actually like the idea that we have chosen a night to do sewer business. And actually, I think we haven't done it justice because we have too many other things on the agenda tonight.
I agree.
And that's my opinion. I thought we were going to be just sewer business, and I was going to bring up the point, all this extra stuff on the agenda is not right. If it's going to be a sewer meeting, it should be a sewer meeting. And maybe, if that's the case and we're all having problems in that, maybe we ought to get our butts here for an extra meeting just for sewer meetings. And have our 4 regular selectmen meetings, and then have a specific day that's just strictly for sewer meetings. Maybe that's what we do.
I will, if you want to go back on the tape, when we did this originally, my comment was that I thought we should have a 5th meeting a month, whatever, strictly for sewer.
Then let's do it. I
Fine.
mean, if that's what we need to do, let's do it.
Fine. But I think that we need a specific meeting on a specific time frame.
All right, so basically we have 2 specific meetings. Mr. Titlebaum, you were in the middle somewhere.
You're in the middle. You're the middle man.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever
Mr.
you
Holmes,
decide.
would you prepare to have a separate meeting
So basically,
besides our regular meetings?
my point is, we have a huge enterprise known as the sewerage, the treatment plant that
Yes,
Mr.
$6
Campino runs.
$6 million business.
It's a $6 million business. He's looking at $30 million in future expenses, capital, long-term expenses, and we're going to give it one day a month. I don't know any organization or any business that devotes a couple hours a month to that kind of business.
Well,
So, if you know they're out there and they're very successful, I mean, we have a former CFO and vice president sitting right there. We would never dedicate 2 hours a week, or 2 hours a month, to this type of business. I just think it needs more attention. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Tropiano?
okay, I'm guessing that if we had a sewer commission, they'd meet once a month. I'm guessing that that's what they would meet. And you know what? It would be a pretty accurate guess. Now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't have a special meeting if something was urgent or pending, I would guess. But I would guess they would have once a month meetings, just like most of the committees. They would have that. That's what they would probably do. And I think, a matter of fact, if you go look at other towns, I think you'll find they're doing just that. And that doesn't mean that we can't put on our regular agenda something of importance. You need a rate set or whatever. It doesn't mean you can't put that on there. And then still have that meeting dedicated once a month. If it's the 5th meeting, I have no problem with that.
I'll kiss you now.
Through you, Mr. Chairman?
Just so,
I'm sorry.
this is a comment. I usually don't put an agenda in front of my own per se. I really let everybody else say what they want here. I would be most comfortable personally if we basically would allow that as things come up which we've always done, is where it has to be acted on, we put them on the agenda, and then we dedicate one meeting a month. But anything that comes up and needs an answer that can't really wait 30 days, whatever, they just get scheduled, as we've always done before. And you basically send me a note saying, I'd like to get this on, it goes on right away. If that works for everybody, I'd be happy with that.
Can
I'd
I
just like
ask
to-
him, have you held up on anything?
Well,
Or do you like this once a month better?
if I had my druthers, I would say to you, Mr. Tropiano, members of the board, that I think it deserves a weekly meeting for just sewer business. See, like tonight, we talked about the issue of the grease, and you said I need to discuss it. We could discuss it, because we're meeting every week. So if we didn't get an answer, we could discuss it openly tonight, because it's all sewer business, and then we can make a decision next week. I'm sorry, or any other thing. One of the things that I would like to do is we have a budget that you folks sign. We could discuss that in the sewer agenda. I would like a sewer meeting every single week for 3 to 4 hours. There's so many things that we go through in the course of our week that I would like to get some input. I'd like to run it by the sewer commissioners, so we're all on the same page, because some of these decisions are weighty. And so, yeah, I think to run it properly, my opinion, every single week, 3 to 4 hours, every single week to run the sewer department. Absolutely. See what we're paying, what our bills are. Gosh, sewer commission, you guys understand the business, so if I'm sitting here talking about something that I'm spending $20 million on, or $10 million or $5 million, and you say, well, what about this and what about that? Well, I think collectively we can make better decisions ongoing and run a better enterprise. So I think weekly meetings would be important for me. That's what I want. And I've used the analogy of what does most children want from their parents? Undivided attention. They want nothing else. They don't want the money. They just want their attention. And so the sewer department needs so much attention to have your attention once a week, undivided talk, just nothing about sewer, run things by you. I think we could have a better enterprise. That's my opinion.
That'll happen on May 1st of 2015.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
My question right now is, do we want to basically assign one of the selectmen, basically sewer commissioners, to meet with Mr. Campino on a weekly basis, and issues brought to the board then? I'd like to resolve the issue. I'm not happy the way it's working.
We can pick a time or a date each week that we could sit and meet, and I can always bring it back here and talk to them about it as well.
You could do it by way of liaison reports. And as long as there's no vote or policy making, you could just say, we talked about this, and next time around,
We'll have to pick a day that works for both
you
of
think
us.
about
Yeah,
this.
that's fine. I think I'm probably more flexible than you because I worked on the day or whatever,
Yeah, I
even
don't-
evenings.
Yeah,
Whatever you want to do, we
I
can.
don't think either one of you are very flexible anymore. You kinda
Well,
old.
yeah, I guess that's probably a bad statement. I apologize for
We
that
can't bend
statement.
too well anymore.
Not really.
No.
I come with, now when Guy has an issue, he usually sends me a note and I go over to the facility, but I'm not really.
No, and I agree, and I appreciate
I'm
that. I
not
truly
comfortable
do. I
Mrs.
truly do.
Whiteside?
I'm going to say it again, at the risk of having you all really angry at me.
No.
That is the job, that's part of what our job is. It says sewer commissioner right
right.
here. And I think that certainly the liaison position is a good one, but I'd like to state publicly that I don't want you thinking that we only hear you once a month. That if you have something that we should have a folder where we get stuff on a regular basis. And then on the day that you come before us, we talk about nothing but sewer. Mr. Holmes is absolutely accurate. There are going to be 5 people who are going to be spending, full time, and they're not getting paid. They have no remuneration. They have nothing. They are going to be elected officials, and that's it. They get nothing else. So I think it's incumbent upon us to do a better job of what we haven't been doing.
I look forward to just the liaison, because right now I'm looking at odor issues, odor issues, and I'm looking at spending maybe $40,000, $50,000. Bouncing things helps me. I bounce engineers. I abuse them, try to get their time for nothing and all those kind of things, and I talk to my, coworkers. But again, running it by some educated folks that know business, that business sense, know sewer, to me, that's priceless. That's how I look at it.
May I volunteer to be on it with you? Can you take 2 of us?
Sure, I'll take all of you. If
only
you
get
violate the law.
Nothing over 2.
No.
Yeah, and this is not a subcommittee, it's a sewer filter.
Yes. All right, so to go back to where we are going to meet once a month in addition to our regular meetings, or just the third third meeting of the month, and then as individual items come up, we put them on the agenda as well. And we'll try and keep as much as possible for the third meeting every month for sewer. We're gonna have issues where we have a license that comes up with something that time-wise, we might have to approve something. And that's really what was done this time here. And the appointments, of course, we're trying to dove into the end of the month.
Yeah, well, it's June, so it's a weird month anyway.
Yeah.
Have a license if we're following our own policy.
I know, it's supposed to be 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Violated our policies, but again.
As always.
You're right about that. You're right about that. We definitely been doing a lot of that lately.
How about a poll vote, just on, an extra meeting?
You wanna have an extra meeting?
Mm-hmm. I'll go for an extra meeting.
You got a guy now who's gonna meet to them once a week. He's gonna bring
Me
back
too.
all the sewer information, That's better than another meeting.
You wanna eat?
Patrick knows.
We can meet the third week on a Thursday. Usually nobody meets at night on Thursdays.
Patrick, you can call Alan and say, Alan, we need something for next Tuesday, put it on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Guy and I
Okay.
We got the ability to meet every week.
Yes.
with it.
every week, and we'll
And
work.
you don't even have to come, and Patrick knows.
Are we gonna have the extra meeting a month?
Have a discussion about.
I do too.
Why don't we see how the filter works before we commit to an extra meeting?
DOR.
Absolutely.
Look, DOR has pounded us on this, so let's just do it right for
Alright.
the next 11 months, because that's really what it is.
I'm just gonna ask for a consensus vote.
I'd like to see how you two do as sewer filters before we commit to an extra meeting. I see there's nothing wrong with doing that for a month or two and seeing how it works out, especially in the summer.
Mrs. Whiteside,
Extra meeting.
Mr. Tropiano, Mr. Holmes?
Hey, I'd meet as often as he wants. If you're gonna have an extra meeting, is there any need for Patrick to go there 5 times a month?
I think so.
I think there's a lot of things
We
to
can't take
discuss.
the information from him every week. I mean,
No, Guy has stuff
see, my point
every
is,
day
my
comes up.
point is,
Every-
we need it
it's-
once a week. We have it once a month now.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have another one once a month. Whereas Patrick's volunteered to meet with you once a week and filter here once a week. We're gonna get information every Tuesday night about what's going on at the sewer department. Every Tuesday night. At least, now, so that's 4 times a month. Plus his 4 meetings a month. That's 8 meetings a month. I mean, that's pretty good. It's better than what you get now.
Absolutely, I'm excited about it.
As opposed to an extra night a month. I like this every week with Patrick idea. I think, I'd like to try that, at least for the next couple of months, and see how it goes. I'd like to try that.
Deciding vote there, buddy.
And he'll be on there, and he'll be on every week on the liaison to talk to us about what you and him, and if it's something he needs, he can put it on the agenda. Every week, this can be on the agenda, not selective nights.
Okay.
Mr. Bowen, before we make the final vote? I always ask, because I always know the answer usually.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My answer won't be a popular one, perhaps, but if you're going to have 2 members of the board meeting with Mr. Campina on a
subcommittee.
regular basis, that's a subcommittee.
Yeah.
All right?
There's nothing
I'll do it.
and there's nothing wrong with that, but
Right.
it's just post it, get an agenda up, just do all the things that we usually do
No.
whenever we're gonna
we don't
meet.
wanna do
No,
that.
we don't
We're
wanna
gonna
do
be
that.
more flexible than that, so
Yeah.
the guy and we can meet. So why don't, you're out. Judy's
fine.
out. It's you and me.
So just let one do it. And if Patrick can't do it,
Then
one
I will do
week,
it.
then Mrs. Whiteside could.
My vote is simple. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and agree with Patrick coming and giving us weekly, update us if we need a special meeting, as the weeks go, call the meetings.
48 hours.
And we leave it the way we are without having that extra meeting right now. Let's try it for 2 months and see how we go.
Right, but we are still going to dedicate 1 meeting a month to sewer.
I still will leave the third
Yes.
meeting of the month
That's right.
for
Mhm.
sewer as much as possible. But in the other meetings, if something comes up, Patrick will let us know, and we'll schedule it in.
Guy, this is my cell phone number, so you should call it and put your number in my phone, and that way we
Okay.
can talk. on a
Just one last
regular
thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just one other point. The idea of this is to give due diligence to the sewer department, because as sewer commissioners, that's one of the reasons why they basically voted to take it away, is we've never assigned enough time to do the job.
Right.
Mr. Titlebaum.
I would suggest that on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, when the meeting is devoted primarily to sewer, that you limit citizens' participation to sewer concerns only. I think that's reasonable.
Oh, I like that
Oh,
idea.
I like that.
I like that
a lot.
idea a lot.
I like that a
You
lot.
know, the Board of Selectmen, you don't have to have a meeting. You have, by charter, you have to meet twice a month.
That's it.
So on that Tuesday night, what I can recall doing in the past was, that Tuesday night was just a workshop meeting. There was no citizens' participation, none of that stuff. It was just what was on the workshop agenda.
The first one we did,
On
we
a
actually
Tuesday night.
did it that way.
Yeah,
We should
and you
just
know
get-
what, it worked fine.
Yeah.
It worked very well.
Yeah.
It worked very
So
well.
we'll change that out as well.
Okay, good.
You don't have to have it.
Thank you. No more.
Thank you so
citizens.
much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
all your attention. I appreciate this.
See you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have fun.
Jack.
Can I just
All
ask
right.
one more question? Is your tent over the smelly waters up?
Oh, yes, it's up, we're operating, it was funny, I got some videos I'll show you when you come down of us crawling over there, well, actually, the owner on plywood to go out in the middle of it, and always with the possibility of sinking, really interested to do adjust some of the pods. But we just got the analysis back, it's 93 to 97% efficient,
Good.
so we took the pods off, the charcoal filter, let the air come through, bagged it, then put the filter back on, bagged the air, and there's a 97%, 93, we did 3 samples, 93 to 97% reduction, so it does work. We're fighting with right now is that the basin goes up and down and has a sloped. And so the pods come up and they wrap up, and then when it comes back down, they lay down. So sometimes they don't shift properly, so we're working with that. We're gonna make some modifications, but yeah, we're pretty excited about it. It's up and running. Come down, I got videos. What I'll do is I'll put the videos together and send you off the videos. We're
And
done.
this has reduced some of the complaints, the neighborhood
I've had
complaints.
3 complaints this year by the same individual,
Mhm.
and what I'm excited about, she's saying she's smelling odors. So last year, the year before, and the year before, they weren't as pleasant. So I'm encouraged, I'm real encouraged. We walk the neighborhood, we very rarely smell odors to the fence line, so they're not getting them.
Okay.
And so we're pretty excited about it, we really truly are.
Thank you.
It's good stuff, really. When we get done, I'm gonna tell you this, when it's all said and done, we're gonna present it to the WEF committee, either in New Orleans or Chicago, because it's that exciting. To us anyways, it's that exciting.
Is that your new motto? The water pollution control facility, we stink less and less?
Yes.
Yeah, go away.
Yeah.
Quit while
Good
you're
night.
ahead.
Yeah, okay, liaison reports, Mr. Titlebaum.
Actually, we have the town administrator's report.
No, there isn't one.
Yeah, there is.
We do?
I have-
Sewer
yeah, I've
business?
been I
We
was
already do that.
made
You
the
already did
You're
designee
not
today.
the town administrator.
I was made the
Thanks,
designee, sorry. Let me just read this off. Mr. Sullivan did send me a list today.
You know, he should be here if he wants to give a
Never
report.
mind. I already
Proxy
read,
report.
I already read the time bond report. The road commissioners voted in favor of the onset parking plan with fees kept in place. We have ordered signage so this plan can be enacted during July 2014. Although a mid-season start is not ideal, it will help us observe and react to any issues that may arise. A top concern of the residents of Onset is the Shell Point parking lot. The request is that Onset resident sticker will also allow free parking in Shell Point lot. This is not an agenda item, but I would request the polling of the board for their opinion on that.
Okay, I have to say one thing. I need an opinion of council, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I believe they have no right to assess a fee as road commissioners. I believe that we are the only ones who can establish a fee for parking. They are certainly in charge of the roads, but I think when it comes to a parking plan and fees, and I did a little homework on this, they have no right to establish a fee.
Tell you what, give me a minute.
Okay.
While you're doing that, Rich, I'll
All right,
continue
we can
along.
Move on to the next thing, won't you?
Next, trash. Mrs. Slavin is here. Sandy Slavin owes Officer Richard Robideau a tray of fudge for writing the first trash citation last week. So,
Somebody
A tray
actually
of
got
fudge. And of course, you'll have some for the board as well, right?
no,
No. Oh, that's not
So-
fair.
that answers, we have one citation written already. Healthcare, the PEC met with the representatives from the Mayflower Municipal Health Insurance Group and Group Benefit Strategies to discuss moving into the Mayflower Group. The attending member representatives voted unanimously in favor of moving to the Mayflower Group. As a part of this move, the PEC administration agreed to carry forward the healthcare splits of 67.5 employer, 32.5 employee for an additional year through 2020, granting the town additional year of savings. The town's request to move to the Mayflower Group will now be brought before Mayflower Group Steering Committee and then the board. I will update the BOS as more information is available. This will be basically giving us a long-term savings all the way through. That's all I have for the TA's report today.
All right, so, while he's playing with that, why don't we move on to liaison reports? Mr. Titlebaum.
Yeah, the Beach and Tourism Advisory Committee met again last week, this time with Paul Cripps, Plymouth County Development Council, Tourism, honcho for the whole area. We're refining the brochure that's going to be handed out when the train service starts. Also, Selectman Slavin and I went to Senator Pacheco's Business Roundtable meeting on Friday. The topic was substantially the topic was, for the most part, the Middleborough Rotary, but the State Secretary of Transportation was there as the keynote speaker, and he gave us some updated information about the Cape Flyer. He seemed quite convinced that it would start by the 4th, but he's hopeful that it will actually start on the 27th, I think was their target date.
Now, they've confirmed that the first trip for Wareham is the 27th.
Okay, so they...
27th of June.
27th of June, so...
Friday.
Yeah, that is coming along. And again, it was nice to speak with him. There are some plans going forward to keep pushing for the commuter rail as well. That's a longer project. That's not something you're going to get done in 3 months. But nonetheless, we have to keep ourselves on their radar so they know that we're still interested, still want it. We also met with Representative Bill Strauss and our own Representative Susan Gifford to discuss that as well. So we're still trying to push that through.
Ms. Whiteside.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Holmes.
Yeah, just a comment to Janet, to Shirley. Please go back in the old records of liaison reports in board votes. I believe that, just for reference, we appointed Mrs. Begley and created the position of a sewer treatment plant liaison. When she left, Kara did it. So if you guys could go back and look at the history of that, I think it's already done. Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Again, Mr. Titlebaum mentioned about the meeting on Friday. I'm about to send a letter off from the board to Secretary Davey after conversations, inviting him to come to Wareham sometime in the month of July. He'll be coming down here to visit the area and look at the town itself, look at the train. Actually, because it'll be the first time he sees the Cape Flyer at Wareham. Unfortunately, he is booked with the governor for the western part of the state on the 27th, but he'll be spending time looking at the train itself and possible future locations. The other part, we also had met with the Cape Cod Times. I don't think the article came out this Sunday, but they basically were in here looking through to have an article. If you have 36 hours, what can you do in Wareham? And that should be in the Cape Cod Times. I'll find out the exact time frame. The planning board had met and actually worked on the project for Route 28 and Toby Road. I think that at this point here, they're more or less with the sewer allotment there. That should be another couple weeks. They should be finished with that as well. And I think that's it for me tonight.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Town council is
Go
ready.
ahead, Mr. Bowen.
Go for it.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'm just going to read from section 3-9 of the charter titled Board of Road Commissioners. Subsection A talks about the composition. We won't bother with that. Subsection B, powers and duties. I'll read this out. The Board of Road Commissioners shall act in accordance with the powers enumerated in Chapter 40, Massachusetts General Laws, Section 22, and, as such, shall conduct a periodic review of public ways and shall make rules and orders for all traffic policies, including speed limits, traffic control signs, regulation of heavy commercial vehicles, traffic and parking regulations, penalties, and repeals. Insofar as these rules and orders are the same as the regulations, rules, and orders now enforced in the Wareham Municipal Traffic Code, they shall be deemed to be a continuation thereof. The board shall therefore furthermore assume the responsibility of street marking and house numbering as determined by section whatever of the bylaws. That's what the charter says the responsibilities of the road commissioners are. It talks about traffic and parking regulations.
Wouldn't that be in relation to public ways as opposed to parking lots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it says public ways. I don't see that as being an inclusive term of every kind of road surface that we have.
That's exactly what I would say. And also,
Yeah.
it says penalties, not fees for parking.
Well,
And that's a little different. We're not penalizing the residents, we're charging them a parking fee.
yeah, I just on the question of fees, if it was something in a public way, like say you're doing angle parking and we're putting parking meters in, the fees would fall under the word order, because you're ordering the fees. And I think there's some case law that gets into the question of what an order is.
Okay.
But, has to do with roads, chapter 40, section 22, which I had also brought up, talks about regulating the conduct of vehicles on ways as opposed to, separate lots. Like, for example, I wouldn't say that the road commissioners could determine the parking policies for this lot right out here. That's something that would be for the town administrator or perhaps in consultation with the board.
So that would be, we've discussed this before a little bit. So basically Heinz Field, Lopes Field, even where we have Swift's Beach, Little Harbor and stuff, those areas there, those would really not be in the purview if they wanted to charge fees of the road commissioners.
Yeah,
And I would think that the same thing would, for Shell Point, would be the same issue.
I think you're talking ways rather than something that isn't a public way.
Right. So I think at this point here, we really can't vote on the Shell Point, as the recommendations, as far as that parking plan. That would be something we'd have to decide as a group here. I think some of the confusion lies in the fact.
Definitely confusing, that's for
Well,
sure.
I think the real problem is that because we're Board of Selectmen / road commissioners, the two authorities that we have between the two groups overlaps, and therefore, nobody ever questioned anything because it falls under either one of them.
Right.
And now it doesn't.
Well, to me, this is just it's a tennis volley. We discussed it last week, we handed it off to them. They came back and they took care of the road piece of it, and now they're handing it back to us for the parking lot. So it's just, back over the net to us again. So they've made a recommendation back to us on Shell Point.
I agree.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, for public ways.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I mean, the problem is, as you, sorry about that, Paul. The problem is, as you point out, when the plan was up there on the screen, really you had something that fell within the jurisdiction of both boards. I mean, you've already said that certainly everything that had to do with parking, on-street parking and all that stuff, that's road commissioners. Clearly that's road commissioners, and so a lot of what Gary was putting up on the screen really was road commissioner stuff. But if the overall plan that is being put forward is going to involve stuff that isn't part of a public way, I think that's with you, perhaps with Derek. I don't see Derek taking steps on that without you, but it's not with the road commissioners. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think at this point, as far as the Shell Point piece, we could make a recommendation, but, we can't go ahead and approve it through the road commissioners.
No, we would approve it ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would have to be an agenda.
Agenda item and
Has to be
vote.
agenda, and probably actually, I guess the town administrator would put it on his request for us to vote on.
Okay.
No, we control the lands. He controls the building, so it's not really coming through him.
But we need a request from somebody to do it. unless we do it on our own.
Well, we can request it.
We can do it on our own.
Okay.
I
Does.
request it right now. How about that?
When would you like to
There you
put it
Could you
on the
put it on the
agenda?
agenda as soon
Yeah.
as possible?
Can do that.
You can put it
Okay,
under
thank you.
Patrick.
All right, so that's, as far as the consent agenda, we have no bills. And the next thing would be to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
500. Good night, Wareham.